What's going on, everybody, and welcome to our ProGuides weekly news recap. My name is Kangas, and today I'll be talking about everything that's been going on over the past week. We've got a lot to talk about, including Sunning's AD carry stepping down from LPL All-Stars, all the way to Riot's brand new game. But before we get started, our question of the day is, who's your favorite champion to play this preseason? My personal favorite is still Bard. Let us know in the comments down below. Let's start things off by talking about what's been happening outside of the game. Huang Feng, Sunning's AD carry, is stepping down from LPL's All-Star roster. This is happening because of major controversy surrounding Huang Feng's hometown girlfriend, exposing him for multiple accounts of cheating. We're talking about IRL cheating, not in League. I won't try to explain everything since the posts aren't in English, but his teammates, SOFM and Angel, are disappointed but a bit amazed. They were practicing together every day from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m., which means Huang Feng was pretty good with his time management. Since this is such a fan-favorite event, it makes sense that he'd step down to avoid drawing attention to himself. We finally got to see some gameplay for Ruined King, a League of Legends story. This is the first game that is shipping through the Riot Forge, where game developers can collaborate and branch out from League of Legends while staying in the universe. This way we'll get to see way more lore from characters around the Runeterra world. There also won't be a need to tie in any MOBA-style gameplay. Ruined King is a turn-based RPG with dungeon crawler elements. The trailer released at this year's Game Awards shows us a lot of cool details in the game. We know that the playable characters are Misfortune, Alawi, Braum, Pyke, Ahri, and Yasuo. Each of them have unique abilities and skill sets, just like they do in League of Legends. The combat is going to be turn-based, and it seems like there's a lane system that affects how certain abilities behave. Outside of actual combat, we saw a few puzzles and mechanics like initiating fights to having the upper hand. Riot says that they're planning to release the game in 2021, although I'll doubt we'll see it in the first half of the year. I'd say it's safe to get hyped in the late summer to fall. We'll have a PC and console version, which shows that Riot is trying their best to branch out to new territories. I can't wait to see what they're working on with Riot Forge, especially the fighting game and ARPG games that we saw during the 10th anniversary event. Speaking of the Game Awards, Riot actually won Best Esport Event and Esports Game with League of Legends. Looking back, 2020 Worlds deserves so much credit for being an awesome event, all during COVID lockdowns. It's really difficult to make things work, and despite a few hiccups, Worlds 2020 didn't really feel like it missed the mark by much compared to previous World events. League of Legends winning Esport of the Year really solidifies the path that the game has been going. The professional scene brings so much to the table, from captivating narratives to high-level gameplay. And with how dynamic the meta is, the game sticks to fundamental rules while constantly breaking the mold with new items and balance changes. I think 2021 will be an especially important year for League of Legends esports scene, as there's so many major changes happening, including surprise retirements and imported players. There's never been a better time to get into the scene. In other news, Riot's recent success with their virtual band KDA is continuing to get question marks from the community. Ever since the reveal of Seraphine's social media, people started talking about what this means for the future of Riot's marketing. Some people really enjoyed interacting with Seraphine on Twitter, and even more when she'd respond to their posts. But on the other hand, some felt like the entire idea of advertising a fake person struggling with mental health for monetary gain for the company was wrong. On release, the newest KDA EP titled All Out was a big success, with popular artists like Madison Beer, Kim Petras, and Twice. Every song delivers in the hype. There's hardly any backlash to the music itself. However, Genius released a lyrics video covering Akali's part of More, and this is where things started to get a bit crazy. There's a few things that people in the League community are pointing out about the video. To start, Akali's voice isn't actually her League of Legends actress or her singer from KDA. While I don't think her voiceover is terrible, it just feels weird to have so many versions of the same character's voice. Fans were also shocked at the actual animation of Akali's character model. Her movements are awkward at times, and it's clear she's just waving her hands around way too much. I don't think we should expect the highest caliber of animations, especially during a pandemic, but there's definitely some areas to improve. But if we focus on the actual lyrical breakdown, the focal point of any Genius lyric video, it also falls pretty flat. Akali's explanations are simple, to put it nicely. She really doesn't dive deeply into all the lyrics, and she just repeats most of the lines but in different ways. I don't think that this is Akali's fault. The issue is more that they chose to use the song More instead of her actual song, The Baddest. I guess Riot was trying to avoid having a bunch of Korean to translate, but it just feels lazy and uninspired to have Akali talk for 15 seconds about hating math. In lighter news, a Riot emote artist actually dropped the ball after the community started noticing some similarities between the playful pup emote and other cute corgi art. After some research, the three-headed pup appears to have been based on 3 different designs, all used to create different expressions on the emote. Artists are often outsourced when it comes to things like emotes and splash art, so we weren't really sure what actually happened. What if the artist who made the pup was the same one who originally posted the design in the identical style? Well, Riot cleared this up pretty quickly, posting a comment on Reddit stating that they're going to speak with their artists and figure out a plan to address the situation. Plagiarism is terrible, especially when you see it happen from such well-known companies like Riot Games. Hopefully this issue gets resolved quickly, with the art stolen being supported in some way. On a much lighter note, Ashley King released an interview with CoreJJ where they talked about a bunch of interesting topics, ranging from Doublelift's retirement to the concept of aging in esports. Ashley is a fantastic interviewer, so make sure to give her video a watch if you want to know more. For now, we're going to talk about CoreJJ's take on NA solo queue and in-houses. If you haven't been watching, CoreJJ and other high-ranking solo queuers are playing in custom games together on Twitch. This is popular in regions like Korea, but NA hasn't had a healthy system like this before. There's a lot of respect for CoreJJ and his commitment to helping better the NA scene. Players don't just magically get better, and because high-level solo queue talent isn't as respected in NA like it might be in Korea, it's really hard to get noticed as someone who wants to go pro these days. These in-houses are bringing spotlight onto players no one has really heard of before, giving them a platform to not only better themselves, but also to advertise themselves. Go check out Captain Flower's stream if you want to see the games. Okay, so let's start talking about what's really been going on in League of Legends. Mark Yetter, League's gameplay design director, released an interesting infographic that showed what Mythic items current classes were building. His initial thoughts on the graph were it's a promising start point for creative item choice and diversity. He later went on to release a bunch of other graphs showing every single role and what kind of items they're building specifically. These charts started a lot of conversation in the community, so let's highlight some of the key points. It seems odd to group together the individual classes and their item diversity since there are so many different types of champions in a class. For example, Ahri and Brand are 2 totally different mages, but they're both still mages. This makes their item diversity really hard to pile together. On the other hand, the other graphs that were tweeted showed the diversity of individual champions, which was hit or miss in a few places. I think it's pretty difficult to imagine a world where 3 Mythic items are totally viable on every champion in the game. At the end of the day, there will always be different opinions on everything in League of Legends. Item diversity is a good goal, but I'll be shocked if we ever fully get to that point. For patch news, patch 10.25 brought some big item changes. Riot decided to make an important change to the way Muramana interact with damage. They're making it so that the item's bonus damage, once fully stacked, only applies to physical damage abilities. This makes a big difference in what champions even want to buy the item at all. During 10.24, mages like Orianna and Cassiopeia were loving this item due to how quickly it stacks for them. The bonus damage that you got from it greatly outweighed the stats that it gave. Even then, AD isn't a terrible stat if you're good at weaving in your auto attacks. Sadly, the build only got to live for about a week. Seeing something unique appear reminds me of how dynamic League of Legends can be, but Riot is always swift with putting things in line with their image of the game. I feel like this change is going to do a lot more damage than they intended though. Champions like Ezreal and Corki, who enjoy building the current Muramana, will just flat out lose damage in their kits. The real bummer here is that the only reason mages were building Muramana specifically is because Seraphs is just completely terrible. The build path sucks, the stats suck, and they removed the active shield. Literally no one wants to build this item, so why not just buff Seraphs so that it could keep up with Muramana? If the items both give the same value, mages will have 2 close options. This is great for the game, literally doing exactly what Riot said they wanted with the new items. Well, right now there are even more item changes being released to the PBE, including a partial revert to Runaan's Hurricane. The item costs 2,500 instead of 3,400, along with a changed build path which removes all the AD that it gives. This change is massive for AD carry mains, as Runaan's used to be a core item for some of the marksmen, more important than any of the other current Mythic items. Jinx, Kog'Maw, and Aphelios all rely on the bolts to effectively spread their damage, giving them stronger spikes earlier on in the game. If these changes go through to patch 11.1, we might start seeing a shift in the bot lane meta. Riot Phlox, a member of the design team, briefly mentioned some big changes to Tahm Kench and his kit in late November. With how polarizing TK's gameplay is between pro play and solo queue, the balance team is working on a way to make the champion feel more cohesive for all players. The goal was to release these changes before Season 11 begins, but of course, as Riot does, no promises were made. The changes themselves are supposed to swap Tahm Kench's W and Ultimate, 2 of his most important abilities. This means that his Ultimate will devour an enemy or an ally, with added effects to compensate for this being the ult. His W would be similar to Rek'Sai's Burrow, knocking up enemies after traveling a short distance. Remember, these changes are all tentative and might not even happen at all. We'll have to wait and see if they make it to the PBE before really thinking about what will happen to Tahm Kench in the future. Personally, adding more CC sounds awful. Like every winter season, people are talking about bringing back the winter theme for the Rift. For those who never got to experience it, Riot in the good old days used to totally redo all of Summoner's Rift, adding in snow and other Christmassy features. However, it's already been stated from Riot that they don't plan to release a snowy map this year. It's a maybe, but probably won't happen. They've shifted their focus to creating environments that last longer, things like making Nexus splits themed around Ionia. Even though it's brought up every single year, the discussion around the topic does change. It's obvious that the winter theme would take a lot of work, especially if it's new each year. And people speculate that Riot won't bother since this actually wouldn't make them any money. I think there's pros and cons to focusing a portion of your team to big projects like this to redesign the Rift. It really only fits for a few months, and that isn't even everywhere in the world, but it is really fun if it applies to you. However, we won't really know the exact reason behind new skins for the map, but stay tuned. Last but not least, there are 4 new skins coming to the Rift. Callista and Kled are getting skins in the Marauder theme, while Gragas and Quinn are getting Warden skins. In the original splash art, Quinn was looking a bit too much like Kayle, so Riot tuned up her splash art to better resemble the champion. It's been a long while since these 4 in particular got new skins, especially Quinn and Callista. And now the only champion that hasn't gotten a skin in over 1,000 days is Shyvana. Well, that's about everything for our weekly recap. If you're interested in anything regarding the League of Legends meta, champion releases, powerful builds, and more, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more content. Thanks so much for watching, ProGuides fam. We hope to see you back here next week. As always, good luck on the Rift, stay hydrated, and wash your hands.